All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the new episode of the Tricks That Trade podcast. I'm Whispyr, like usual. I'm the Wowhead Assassination Rogue Rider. And I'm the moderator in Ravenhold here. And I am joined, as always, by my two lovely compatriots, Selian Guy.
Yo, what's up?
Yo,
What do you guys do?
I do Outlaw Wowhead Guide. I do Method Outlaw Guide. I spend too much time in Discord.
Yeah, same with the spending too much time on Discord, and then I do Outlaw and Assassination for Icy Veins.
Cool. All right, so since the last time we've talked, a lot of stuff happened, yeah? Pre-patch came
Really?
out,
Talent trees. Woo!
talent trees finalized, lots of tuning. We've gone through like 4 tuning passes now. So thoughts between 3 rogue specs?
Outlaw looking like the best.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Looking like an outlaw tier.
So
Woo!
defeated.
and like half the community just facepalmed at that notion.
Oh my
Listen, man.
God.
There's nothing wrong with Outlaw being the best. It is the best designed rogue spec. So it being the best numerically, it's just common sense, you know.
I'm just gonna say agree to disagree, because otherwise we're gonna spend the next hour just talking about Outlaw, and no one wants to listen to that.
I mean, isn't that what we normally do?
We'll be talking a lot about the best spec. Don't worry.
I feel like that's our normal thing, is just talking about Outlaw, and then why we
Yeah.
don't want to play Outlaw.
I mean,
and then guys saying
here's
he
the
wants to
thing,
play
yeah.
Outlaw.
Like it's the only thing he has, right? So that's we kind of gotta give him that. If Outlaw wouldn't be good, then he'd continue talking about Demon Hunter and Huntsman Shaman, and I mean, no one wants that either. So you can have Outlaw guy, it's fine. Just
Hell yeah.
But nah, I definitely like Outlaw looking really good right now. I'm not sure if I'm a fan of the actual gameplay, at least on Dragonflight beta right now. It's just, to me personally, it's just not very enjoyable.
Why?
Because for every button you press, there's like 2 other buttons you also want to press, but you can't.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's very exciting. I don't think it's a good spec for anybody who isn't like super familiar with the game to play. If you jump into a new
Yeah.
boss, then you'll probably make a lot of rotational errors, and that's not a good thing either. And while I am always a big fan of skill expression in any spec, I just feel that the entry level requirement for playing that spec like really well is probably a little bit too high. So yeah, that's what I'm a little bit concerned about. Like the performance-wise, like damage output and everything, I think the spec is really good, and it's in a solid spot compared to most of the other classes. I'm just
Well, I don't
not
know
a
about
big fan
other
of like high
classes, but
APM and high
specs,
opportunity
yeah.
cost.
Yeah, I don't know. The fact that Outlaw is so good is just defeating me.
Woo!
I play my brains out on council, and then I just press N, press middle spec,
Yeah.
and within 3 pulls, I'm just doing the same damage. I'm like, fuck, like
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know how to
lit.
play this shit. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just a monkey hitting buttons, and it's doing fine.
That's what's so good about Outlaws. You can come from all different skill levels and you can perform well. If you want to be a giant tryhard and you want to learn all the stupid 0.2% min maxes that the channel's like obsessed with, then you can do that. But you can also just kind of like hit buttons and like you just have like decent fundamentals and you can like do good enough, right? Like I mean, like it's been a meme for the past 6 years where there's like this outlaw build that's just like significantly worse, like upwards of 5 to 10%, but people still do world first keys and world first raids with like incorrect talents and gameplay and all that, and they so that's how I always look at it, right?
Love Outlaw.
Yeah, it's definitely true. I'm still not a big. I mean, I'm kind of an outlaw, not hater, I would say, but it's definitely not a spec I enjoy very much because to me, I've talked about this before. I don't really feel like it's like a very rogue spec. It feels more like warrior or at this point demon hunter, and not
Yeah.
like it's more about buff management and procs and not about like resource management. And yeah, that's just my one major concern, right? You have so many abilities nowadays that just give you like full combo points, or that just ignore like the combo point system entirely. And I'm just not sure how I feel about that being like a major part of the spec. And basically doubling down on that. I've had that complaint before about the spec, or rather not complaint, but it's just what I don't particularly enjoy about it. And now Dragonflight seems to kind of double down on that. So obviously I'm not going to be having a lot of fun playing it, but so far it definitely looks like it's going to be the spec to familiarize yourself with the most going into Dragonflight, because it looks like it's just going to be the better the better spec out of all the three.
Feel like that, I guess.
Yeah, it do be like that.
Sub is looking okay, even though they don't have a left side of a tree.
Yeah.
They're just playing with 2/3 of a tree and just doing fine, apparently. Now, what we haven't talked about is they got a new talent. Because last time we looked at the sub tree, we were talking shit about how the middle of the talent with like Shadow Mist or whatever was basically just a PvP thing and really janky.
We did talk about Dance Macabre though.
Yeah,
To some
briefly.
extent.
But now it's kind of been finalized. What do we think? Do we like it?
What is it exactly?
So Dance Macabre is basically when you enter Shadow Dance, you deal increased damage, and then depending on the amount of unique attacks used, you deal more. So if you use like Backstab, Shadow Strike, Eviscerate, you get 3 more stacks. And then if you use Rupture, you get a 4th stack. And then you can Shuriken Storm and then get a 5th stack. And so by the end of your dance, you're doing big stuff.
Are there any actual like optimizations around it, or is it just like a passive like 20% damage increase and you just take those?
I think right now it's kind of just a passive, but I mean it sounds cool in theory.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's
we were talking about it last time.
what we arrived at last time as well. It's just that the bonus you gain, like the 10% per stack, is kind of not big enough to warrant using like low damage per execute abilities. You just ramp up the buff to unload like one big eviscerator rupture at the end. So it's kind of like more of a just okay. So you just do a straight 10% more damage doing Shadow Dance, and then because it always applies to the ability when you cast it as well. So even if your first GCDE is just like a Shadow Strike, then it'll still deal like the extra 10% immediately already. And yeah, I'm just not sure if the difference in abilities is just so big that I don't think you'll just throw in like a backstab into your dance just to get 10% more extra damage. I still don't think that that's going to happen.
I mean,
Even
Not
if it
pushing
does,
some
it's
good
just such a
stuff
minor
related to that.
thing.
Bloomblade though. Bloomblade big.
Is it?
Gloomblade's huge. Gloomblade's an actual like big hitting ability. I think it's. I mean, if it's not bigger than Shadow Strike, it definitely is if you take a talent for it. And if you don't, because the left side is trash, then it's probably roughly comparable.
I thought
Yeah,
Push
like
was starting
Team
to look
BS
at
is
Dance
writing that
Macabre
it's
stuff.
6% per stack now in beta, and it doesn't fall off anymore when you repeat something.
Yeah.
So it's more like, does it work like the back in Eternal Palace, like the council boss, where if you used an ability twice, you would actually get silence, but if you just threw in something else in between, you wouldn't? Or is it literally just
No, it's just you use
it,
use an ability,
it
you
just
get a
doesn't
buff.
fall off anymore? So
Yeah.
it's just like 6% per ability. So you basically just want to kind of make sure that if you have any big hitting abilities that have a cooldown, you just want to use them towards the end of the dance.
Correct.
And I'm guessing it still resets when you chain dances, basically.
Yes, I think it does do that.
Yeah. I mean, it's cool. Like, I like these like more involved talents that aren't just like a flat damage increase. I do like the idea of just building up to like big finishers. I kind of feel like this has always been what sub should have been, but never really was. Even though you had like big mastery and like buffing your finishes and everything, and your Viscera doing like extra damage as Shadow and everything. Sure, it would deal a decent amount of damage, but if you compare it to some like really big hitting abilities from other classes, it still didn't compare. And I'm not sure if 6% per stack is getting it there. But yeah, I think it will ultimately come down to just sim optimizations and figuring out, okay, what is the best way to do your dance now, and then how you can just put that into action, like on actual like boss gameplay.
Yeah, and then there's always like tier sets, right? Like, like it sounds like a broken record, but like
Yeah.
tier sets, dude, tier sets are actually going to change like literally everything. Like the fact that like Outlaws build and Covenant and like all that bullshit changes like every single time it gets like just random stuff. It's just like it's 100% going to happen to the other specs, right?
I mean, it just
It
made
might, for sure.
Assassination build better.
What's up? Sorry.
The tier set just made the same build for Assassination, just straight better.
Well, yeah, because it's like the first tier sets are like super generic, right? I'm talking about like future prospect where you make a tier set that actually is a little bit more involved and maybe is more pinpointed on maybe talents that weren't previously taken. Or you can make like an ambush focused tier set for Outlaw, and then suddenly that whole left side of the tree it's a lot more appealing compared to just like all the right side spam with like Dreadblades, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's definitely one of the issues with the set bonuses, right? It's like in the previous iteration, obviously, like any rental power never interacted in any way with talents, because you would be in the situation where you have a set bonus but you didn't pick the talent, so it just straight up doesn't work. And it's going to be tough, I think, figuring out like more involved set bonuses that aren't just basically forcing you to pick certain talents, right?
I think that's fine. Like I think being forced to take talents is fine.
Yeah, like as long as they're focusing on stuff that's like more towards the top of the tree, where it's easier to warrant picking something that you normally wouldn't, right? Because it always comes at opportunity cost. If a set bonus is really good with one ability, but the other like with one talent, but the other talent that you usually pick is just already better, then that kind of balances out the gain you have from actually like acquiring the set. And so, my concern is essentially just being forced to play a specific set is kind of like being forced to play a specific spec. Like if Blizzard goes out and they nerf Fire Mage and they buff Frost Mage, the mages don't really have a choice as to what to play in progress. They have to play the spec that it's kind of like Diablo 3 as well, where something gets changed, something gets overbuffed, and then you kind of have to play that. And I would feel that goes a little bit against the idea of the talent trees themselves, where you have a lot of choice, but then you don't because your set only affects certain talents within the tree, and those you gotta pick. And then, I mean, what else are you gonna do?
You have what 30 and 31 talent points to pick from. Like even if you're forced into going like let's say they make like an ambush tier set where it's just like I don't even care what it does, but it just makes all the left side stuff like super broken for Outlaw, and you make like a super ambush focused build, like you're still gonna have like maybe like 5 to 10 some odd points just to nickel and dime into random points, right? But like I originally and other people were saying that like, oh, like this is just like the GG build for Outlaw, and that's like, oh wait, there's like a small bug, so now we're gonna go Seal Fate, and it's like, all right, now that we're going Seal Fate, now this talent gets a little bit better, and oh, you can drop grappling hooks, now you can go like path a little bit differently, gain like 2% damage for if you want to like lose random utility stuff, and I don't know, it seems like that's like totally fine for me, right? Or at least that's how I always view the talents.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen similar things happen in Assassination recently. And I think it's honestly fine as well if they just make a tier that just giga buffs a talent.
Maybe not like in a direct way where it's like, oh, Ghostly Strikes has a reduced cooldown, like not that, but like in regards to like, maybe an ability that is focused on one side of the tree, like the ambush side for Outlaw versus like the gun side and the Blade Flurry side, right? Or like a Roll the Bone side.
Yeah, but I don't know. I feel like a lot of it is probably going to have to just be a tier set that interacts with something, and then a bunch of passives just get buffed, which...
What do you mean?
Like assassination, a lot of it is like, oh well, your bleeds do more damage now. Oh well, your poisons do more damage now. Oh well, you get extra energy from this shit. So like, if they make a tier that's really really strong but makes talents good, then my fear is like you still play all the same stuff, but like you might just take a passive now, right? You're like, oh well, this is really good in this case because now poisons are strong, so might as well take these little tiny poison nodes at the top of the tree or whatever, and then
I
you just
understand
move
what
on
the
with
issue
your
is.
life. I mean,
I think it depends
it's
a bit on
boring,
the
right?
tree. There's a couple of trees, and I think Outlaw is definitely in a bit of a luxury position there, where even without any rental power, like all the trees have like a very interesting niche, and you can make like different builds. I mean, there's like 3 or 4 different builds pinned in the Outlaw channels right now. I don't know if Sub and Assassination really have like a similar structure, where you can just buff certain talents through a set bonus, and that just makes the class more interesting to play. Right? Like imagine you get like a set bonus that buffs the rotten, and then you have to play left side as Sub. Is that
Well, no,
really going
you
to be
wouldn't.
like going to feel like super good? I don't know. Like we'll find out for sure. I think there's a lot of opportunities to design like really interesting stuff now, because now we can have set bonuses, or we need set bonuses with interactive talents, because the baseline of the class is just so trimmed down to only a handful of abilities. And so it's going to be interesting to see what they come up with. Maybe we'll have set bonuses, and you get to choose like between 1 of 3 different ones or something like that.
Well, I
We'll
don't
just
think
have
you
to
would
wait and see.
have talents or like a tier set that would be buffing like specific like talents, right? Like you wouldn't have one that would be like, oh, Crimson Tempest does more damage. Like for example, with Assassination, like maybe I don't know what the whole 70 meta is with in regards to like Exsanguinate. I know in the theory crafting channel and you guys are talking about Exsanguinate, and I just glaze over it and pretend it doesn't exist. But you can have maybe a tier set that is something that synergizes with Dragon Tempered Blades, where it's like, oh, gain X% damage per poison that your character has applied, and then like, oh, now you have a more focus on going down the middle side of the tree compared to just rushing down to Kingsbane. And then maybe like the 2 set is, for each poison that's applied, deal increased damage or poison / bleed. And then like, oh, now you have a 2 set that makes you want to go down into the middle to grab Dragon Tempered Blades. And then you have another one that makes you want to go Sepsis. And then, you can do stuff like that where it's like, you're not directly buffing these talents like, oh, if you have Dragon Tempered Blades equipped, deal 10% more damage. But you can kind of like guide people towards going down these talents that maybe aren't actually viable currently, just like at a baseline level, right?
Guy getting awfully close to just inventing lethal dose.
Yeah,
dude.
Nah, it's again like for me the main concern is just say there would be a set bonus that just straight up makes Dragon Tempered Blades kind of or interacts in some way with a capstone. Then that kind of, especially with the way the assassination tree works, that just makes it so you can't play any of the other capstones. And then you're in a position where it's like you have like all these interesting abilities at the end of the tree, but the set bonus basically just allows you to play one of them. It's kind of somewhat similar to the situation we had in season 3 and season 4 and Shadowlands now. But it's like you have all these legendaries, but because your set bonus interacts with one of them specifically, way better than with any of the others, your legendary choice from like 4, 5, 6 different legendaries that were all pretty close in performance suddenly just comes down to one. And I'm just not a fan of like reducing choice. I'd like things to be to increase choice. And I mean, the talent trees are kind of like the dream scenario for that environment. But set bonuses they can enhance that even more if they're designed really well. But they can also ruin a lot of the work that's been done on the talent trees by just making something oppressively strong to the point where you're just going to completely ignore entire parts of the tree because it doesn't have a set bonus that works with it, and the one that you will play does.
I mean, how else would you make it so that less desirable sections of the tree become more appealing, if not like a tier set, right?
Tuning,
I mean, you just buff them.
right? Like in an ideal world, obviously that's really really difficult to do. The trees are tuned like well enough that the difference between multiple different capstones or multiple different paths is like somewhere between like 5 to 10% maybe, right? Because as you said earlier, like we had the situation of Outlaw where I mean I was playing Vigor even though I knew it wasn't good. I just didn't want to play MFD at the time, so I played Vigor. I played an inferior spec, but I still did really well with it, right? And as long as we're within that threshold of saying, okay, this might be 5% worse, but it's still playable. Maybe there's like a niche environment where you want to play it, or a specific encounter that really asks for like another 60-second or 90-second cooldown, then there's a reason to play this. But yeah, if you're kind of relying on the rental power, which set bonuses are, to make unplayable talents playable, I think I'd rather have tuning and have set bonuses do something else instead.
Well, I have no idea how much of this is like a mentality thing, because like versus like actual like numerical values, right? Where it's like something, something as minor as like Marked for Death or Blood of the Enemy or, Deathly Shadows, like these things are, unironically always have been like anywhere from like 5 to, 8%, but, people do them anyway. And I guess I just don't have context, for other specs, but I don't know how much of a, DPS difference it is, swapping out like a few random fuck talents that you want on Assassination or Subtlety, for example, right? Because like, just in general, like that's kind of how Outlaw has always been, where people are just like, hey, who cares? It's like 8%, whatever, right? It's like, I did well with it. Like, I don't know how much of that is, also applicable to other specs.
Yeah, let's just say the Kingsbane right now, I think in The Sims, the damage per execute for Kingsbane is somewhere around, like 350, 400k? Or more than that even?
Sounds about right, yeah.
Yeah. So that is one
but how
button
much
press
is
doing
the
like
like
400,000
gain?
damage.
So
not having that because something else is better now. Yeah, as I said earlier, it just comes down to if one talent build is like 10% better right now, and then you have a set bonus that buffs something else by 10%, it basically just evens the playing field, which is nice because then you have more choice. I'd still prefer to just have tuning, take care of like leveling the playing field, and having the set bonus interact with something that is early in the tree. So the odds of you picking it are much, much higher, or the cost of picking it over something else is not as big as it is during the last 2 or 3 rows of the talent tree.
Yeah, I mean, Kingsbane is one of those things, because right now it's like 7% behind in single target, but it's also 7% behind, 7% ahead in execute. So like, if you really want to like be execute chillin', then I guess Kingsbane is PogChamp because it's so far ahead, 7% whole, I guess. But
yeah,
I mean, it's not impressive, right?
I mean that's kind of always been the rogue thing, right? If we're looking at just the overall comparison from rogue to other classes, like we're always discussing between specs, but at the end of the day, none of our specs, with the exception of Outlaw right now, but I'm guessing that will be rectified in one way or another. Outlaw is really far ahead right now, but obviously that's not going to stay. Pre-patch for sure not, because Shadow Dust will disappear. But
it's just the Shadow Dust.
Yeah, and
sure.
On beta, Outlaw is ahead quite a bit still. I'm assuming that will not stay this way. But I'm mostly concerned about, like as you just said, like we're talking about like 7% or even if it's 10% that something is better from one spec to another. How does it compare to other classes, right? Like there's other classes out there that can do more execute damage as well with a specific talent build, and for them it's like 20 or 30% stronger. For us, it's always very close to each other, and that kind of makes it difficult for any of the specs to really become a niche or become powerful in a specific niche, right? And if we're looking at like the boss design in general, right now, first tier, there's just a lot of cleave. So I don't really know.
I just disagree with that. Like, there was like the whole like meme for like Denathrius, right? Where it's like, post buff, especially people were like, oh, you just play assassination on this fight because it's Giga and execute, right? Like, do you not remember that? Or
yeah,
but it was still cope, right?
Do you really want to argue about the fact that there's
totally
just
cope.
a lot of cleave right now in Vault?
Oh yeah, like no, listen, dude. Rogues are cope experts. They find their spec, they make up a reason why it's the best, and then they're just on it. That's just like how it always is.
Yeah, be like that.
Yeah, like Outlaw's cope is gouge. Subtlety's cope is what's it called? Fucking funnel. That's the big cope is funnel and cheap shot, and then assassination. Dude, I remember season 1 BFA where people were saying that assassination has too much utility in keys because of Iron Wire. People just make up copes, man. That's just how life is. Oh,
Yeah.
but yeah, this raid tier specifically has a lot of cleave.
It's no
It also helps
good.
that Outlaw's single target also looks exceptional. So
Yeah,
No
I
good,
think
brother.
that's kind of the point, right? Like even if Outlaw wouldn't be doing really good single target, I think Outlaw might still have a lot of viability just because its damage profile just matches the requirements of most of the boss encounters, especially like the last 2 or 3 fights.
oh, and they just bug fixed stuff to make it do even more. It gained like 10% in Dungeon Slice with that bug fix.
Wow, must
Yeah.
be nice.
If the devs are listening, you just learned how much you have
must
to
be
nerf
nice.
Outlaw after fixing the bug.
Bro, if you think Outlaw is in a position to get nerfed, you're smoking crack cocaine, bro. Have you seen these no good Windwalkers and these no good Warlock players and these no good Shadow Priests and Balance Druids? These classes are the problem right now, okay?
That sounds like something. I think someone said something about rogues being cope experts, and you saying that Outlaw is not going to get nerfed. That's seems pretty
I
accurate.
never said that. I just said if you think the problem spec right now for the next raid is like, oh, Outlaw does too much cleave, you should be your third eye needs to open to what the fuck Balance Druids are doing right now. Have you seen that class? That class is absolutely out of control.
Seems to be.
Have you seen Warlock? Have you seen Warlock again? Dude, Warlock's up to no good too. Dude, this is my problem with rogue players, okay? They're always asking for nerfs, and they're always talking about how, oh, this rogue spec is too good. You guys need to fucking wake up, okay? You guys need to wake up to the shit that these wizards are doing and these fucking dishonest Windwalkers, dude. Or enhance. Dude, did you guys get gaslit by enhanced shamans?
What are those?
Dude, I had our enhanced shamans in guild. They're like this. I'm rerolling, and then like I look at the logs and I'm like, bro, what do you mean you're rerolling? Have you seen what your class is doing? Of course, you got a 25% global nerf. That class was doing too much. Okay.
Nah, it kind of ties into what I said earlier, right? Where it's just we're discussing like how much better one spec is over another, but how does it even compare to what all the other classes are doing, right?
Because that's what matters, right?
I think Rogue is still the only class where people are one-tricking it to the extent that we do. I think every other class has already like accepted their fate that they will play whatever spec Blizzard deems them or like deems to be the new Fodom spec, especially on something like Hunter, Warlock, and Mage, right? Like these three, they play whatever just happens to be best. There's no real like Beastmaster or like Arcane Mage one tricks, right? Maybe there are a few, but compared to like Assassination or Subtlety or Outlaw one tricks, it's not comparable.
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe we should redirect our cope energy and our power and our hatred for each other and just direct it at like Warlocks and Boomkins.
Yeah,
I do agree with that.
Memes aside, I'm aware that Outlaw is looking very well positioned in context to other rogue specs, okay? But Rogue does not look well positioned relative to these no good other classes, okay? And if we're gonna talk about how like, oh, you know, they need to nerf Outlaw because they just, you know, buffed it by 9% in a Dungeon Slice sim, like, bro, you guys need to see what Windwalker's doing, okay? Windwalker is still out of control, okay? Windwalker, like, here's the other thing, okay? People are doing too much damage in pre-patch that they're pretending that it's not the same in Dragonflight, okay? There's a lot of classes that are just gaslighting, okay? Enhanced Shamans are gaslighters, Windwalkers are gaslighters, Balanced Druids, they're on the hush hush, okay? But, you know, keep an eye out.
I mean, there is a lot that changes, like from 60 to 70.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But I think it's the problem with Rogue as well is like there's a lot of one tricks because we cope out on like, oh well, we'll do boss damage anyways. Like we're sitting there and we're like, oh well, Outlaw does like single target. Oh great, it's boss damage. Like, oh, subtlety. Oh well, you can boss damage on subtlety. Oh well, you play assassination. You can do boss damage and then walk 15 yards away, and then the bleeds will tick, and you'll do boss damage.
Yeah, and then you're always comparing it to other rogue specs, right? Like you play subtlety and you say, oh, I'm like the funnel master right now, right? And then you do like 10% more on a prior target than assassination outlaw do, and you feel like really empowered. And then the Beastmaster Hunter or the Destrolog just comes and he just spams Rain of Fire, and he does twice your damage on the prior target while he doesn't even try.
Yeah, I mean, you can play whatever you can play whatever rogue spec you want, but then you're sitting there and you're like, oh, it's time to swap to an ad, and you feel like you're being impactful, and then you see a Chaos Bolt fucking whiz by your head, and you're like, oh, there goes 700,000 HP.
Yeah,
like,
I can use my 90-second cooldown Kingsbane on it to have like some really good prior damage on it, and then I can also just look at another class that's like a random Star Surge doing like half my Kingsbane damage, and it's not on a 90-second cooldown.
Obviously, there's moats, right? But have you seen Affliction Warlock right now? Have you seen what Affliction Warlock is doing?
I only know that all our Warlocks don't want to play Affliction, but they kind of feel forced to right now. But no one actually likes it.
Here's all I know. Okay, the last time I was in a guild. Okay, it was going into Sanctum, right? And I said, "Damn, Demonology Warlock looks really good on all of these Castle Nathria fights. I bet going into the next tier, it's going to be the best Warlock spec." And I got told by 4 different Warlock players in my guild that I'm an idiot, that spec will never be viable because it has to turret. And I said, all right, you guys are right. You guys are Warlock players. You probably know more than me. And then, turns out Demonology was the best spec, okay? And then, going into Sepulcher, I said, wow, Destro Warlock's tier set looks really out of control. I bet that spec's going to be the best spec going into Sepulcher. And then I got told, no, Demonology's the best spec, because it just does infinite damage. And then once again, I was correct, okay? I'm not going to listen to a Warlock player gaslight me this time about Affliction just being balanced in Dragonflight, and it's only the Shadowland systems making it OP. Okay, I'm not getting gaslit this time, okay?
How much foam do you have around your mouth right now?
What's up?
How much foam do you have around your mouth right now?
I got nothing, okay? I just refuse. I refuse to get gaslit by these no good Warlocks, okay? I'm done. I'm tired. I'm tired of the gaslighting.
Nah, it's definitely true. Like, I was talking to our Warlock. Like, our Warlock is actually really nice. Like the one that we have in our guild, because he was basically playing demo already towards the end of Nathria, and then he said, like, bro, like, what is this theory crafting going on? Like he went into the Warlock Discord, and people were just, as you said, like, they were just saying, oh, it doesn't sim that well, and then it's not that good because, as I said, like, it has the turret and everything, and he was actually just playing it, and he did really insane DPS already. And then he was like, okay, so where's the issue here, right? And then they had like some minor APL updates, and suddenly the spec does like 20% more damage in Sims. And yeah, I mean, obviously, then suddenly people quickly changed their tune. I do agree, though. Long term, Outlaw right now is in a good spot, and if the path now is to nerf Outlaw, so it's not that much better than the other 2 rogue specs, that's the wrong approach, right? It's subbing us that need something else to bring it up to the level where Outlaw is at right now.
Yeah, maybe
I'm always
maybe
in favor of buffing the other rogue specs.
Maybe you just like go in and you can say like that all the abilities from both specs go up by about 5%, right? And then the next week you can come back and you can do it again. And then eventually...
It's almost like we had like a situation where we came out of beta, and then one of the rogue specs we said that needs like at least like 20 to 25% more damage, and then over the course of the first raid tier, it got like 3 separate aura buffs that gave it pretty much 20% more damage. And suddenly the spec was really good. I don't remember which one it was or when that happened though, but I seem to recall something like that happening not too long ago.
Bro,
3 buffs, Selly? 3?
It was to Assassination,
5,
that happened to Outlaw. Like, man, like, sometimes your spec just needs a little time. And all I'm saying is, listen,
yeah,
okay,
because
focus
some
your
specs
hatred.
just scale better, right?
It's the scale. Once you get enough gear, then the specs really pop.
Once you get enough gear and aura buffs, brother.
No, it's just the gear.
Yeah, it's just like Outlaw's like whining about Assassination being better than them again, and then they just got Omega buffed in Season 3.
No, dude, it's just the scaling. Outlaw's a really good scaling spec, so like once the gear started piling up...
I mean, it has a grappling hook, yeah, so it can scale quite a bit better.
Oh my...
Yep.
I hate it. Yeah, but...
Yeah, before I got derailed about screaming about... Listen, don't let it be you, okay? Don't let it be you that gets gaslit by broken specs, okay?
Dude, my guild leader is a Warlock player, and he's like, you know what? In Dragonflight, I am re-rolling Boomkin. And I'm like, you are the absolute scum of the earth. Like,
that's another good choice.
Holy, you are the worst.
Nah, man, you gotta look out for number 1. Balance Druid, that's another class. That class looks crazy.
Yeah, it's basically it's always been the issue where when it comes to like whether you get a raid spot or not, unless you're like an officer or raid leader or something, then it just feels bad to have to play the spec you don't really want to play because it's just better than the other specs, and then you'll still struggle to beat like the third best warlock in your guild. Right? It's not you're not even comparing like the Omega gamer with like the really good gaming chair, right? Like the guy that just did 10% more damage than everybody else. You're not comparing yourself to the best warlock in your guild. You're comparing yourself to like the third best mage or the third best warlock, and maybe you do slightly more damage, or maybe you're slightly more valuable than that person. And it's just, I've never been a big fan of that. I always liked it a little bit more in like it was in Legion when melee just kind of all did more damage than range, because range just typically had an easier time getting all that damage out, or just had like extra responsibilities in the raid. So you would always bring a certain amount of them. And then we're still paying for Gul'dan. Like it's been what, like 6 years now at this point. There was one fight once in WoW where melee was better than ranged, and now we're still paying for that by just not being allowed to do more damage than them.
I think that's incorrect. Like, if we look at like Sanctum, right? Like, I think like Sanctum onwards, they kind of realized that like it's okay for melee to do it. Like, Rogue was like good in Sanctum, right? Like, it wasn't like stackable like Balanced Druid was, but it was like you could pretty much bring like 2 or 3 rogues and be like pretty comfortable because Rogue did a lot of fucking damage in Sanctum. You know, literally all 3 specs were like, wasn't it like Outlaw, Assassination, Subtlety as like top 3 by the end of Sanctum?
Yeah, but that's because we actually had, I think, out of all the classes, we had the biggest benefit from the shards.
Yeah, but like, you know, Rogue is exceptional in that tier. In Sepulcher, you know, Enhance was crazy. You know, like Rogue was pretty crazy. Like it's a meme, like, oh, you know, funnel singleton.
It's
blah, blah,
definitely
blah.
gotten
Like,
a lot better. Like we went
yeah,
from
I think the last 2 tiers were
boss
fine, and like
mechanics
even
being
this
so
tier looks fine.
prohibitive. Like just compare like within Shadowlands, right? We have Denafrius as a final boss where you could not bring more than a certain amount of melee because you could only bring as many melee as you had spots downstairs, which was always going to be 6 because you had 2 healers, you had 2 tanks, and then that meant you could not have more than 6. It was just impossible based on how the boss was designed.
Yeah,
And
but
so
the 2
it's
most
definitely
recent ones
gotten
are
a little
fine,
bit
right?
better. But I still don't think that we're ever going to live in a world in Dragonflight where you bring like 3 rogues and 2 warriors and 2 demon hunters and a windwalker, a feral, and 2 enhancement shamans.
Hey, bro, you're asking for the whole fucking squad, bro.
I mean, yeah.
That's how it is with
It's been
ranged.
totally acceptable to have like 2 of each range class every single tier. Why is it not acceptable to have 2 of every melee class every tier?
I think
Why do you have
Melee's
to
been in
pick
a
and
pretty good
choose
spot
between
now.
enhance or the feral or the red paladin? Like, why can't you just have all 3?
I think Melee's been in a decent spot for the last 2 tiers.
I mean, yeah, but it's not about being decent for the last 2 tiers. It's like you go into Sepulcher and you have, you know, like 2 boomkins, 2 hunters, 3 warlocks, 3 mages, and you're like,
People
all right,
are playing
sick.
survival, man. That hunter's a survival spec.
Well, they were playing survival on like half the fights. But
Yeah.
but
What do you mean? Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
but then on the other half you have 9 ranged.
Well, I mean, look how dog shit range was in a lot of these fights. Like, you could not bring like Lords of Dread. Like, you literally couldn't bring range. It was the inverse problem that Melee's had for years, where it's like you just can't bring that many melee. Like, that's what range had to do.
and
It's
I
like,
can
just can't
promise
bring range.
you're gonna hear about Lords of Dread the same that you're still hearing about Gul'dan for the next 5 to 10 years in this
Oh,
game.
damn right,
Because there
damn
was
right I
this
am.
one fight
Just
where you
like-
actually didn't want to bring more than 2 ranged DPS.
Yeah, but my point being is that like just both in the last 2 raid tiers, melee has been a lot more appealing than ranged in like most of the encounters. Like, you're bringing either equal or more on a lot of these encounters, and like I think that's fine. Like I don't need a tier where you're bringing 18 melee.
No, of course not. It's more, I just like to, like, if I look at raid rosters right now, it's unlikely for anybody to have more than 2 of the same class in the melee roster, right? Where everybody is kind of stacking up at least 2 warlocks, at least 2 mages, at least 2 hunters.
I think that's mostly just because like melee brings like very like you're not bringing 2 enhances, right? Like, there's just no purpose. In like warrior, like you could bring 2 warriors, but like why would you? Like, the thing about warlock is that like warlock's like utility and like why you bring them is like, one, they're broken, like always, which is just like, you know, that's just
Warlock,
the way life is.
sure, but then you look
But
at
like
hunter.
warrior, like you don't
what does
need.
hunter or mage or boomy bring?
I mean, you're usually not
terms of
bringing
utility.
multiple hunters, right? Like, hunter's overtuned in like Castle Mathria, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you bring 0 hunters because like hunter's like hunter's like a meme spec, right? Like, you don't always bring hunter.
Yeah, that's true. But you typically have at least 2 boomies, warlocks, and mages, right?
Well,
If you
that's
have
because
them in the roster.
Balance Druid has the literal best spell in all of World of Warcraft, fucking Starfall.
I think every boomie would disagree with you and would call it bad.
Wait, what?
Well, boomkins also don't have any opinion, so
Yeah,
well,
that's true.
none that I care about.
That is somewhat true. Nah, I
I
definitely
just
agree.
think the last
It's
2 tiers
just
have been fine.
I would just like to see more more melee mechanics. Where because if you look at something like Jailer, right? Like you have to do the chains and everything, and melee just can't do that. Just give me
Yeah, fuck yeah.
some raid mechanics that range just can't do that. I have to do with melee.
Well,
I would like that because then there's an incentive to really bring like a bunch of melee that are really good like mechanical players, and not look at them through the lens of how much damage do they do and what utility do they bring, but just straight up they're our best players, so we want them in the raid.
Well, that's like the problem, right? Is like you give melee mechanics and then like they don't do damage because like any mechanic is gonna get any
But
mechanic
that
is
would
gonna
be
get you off the
fine if we
boss.
would just do more damage overall, right?
But then any fight that you don't just fuck them in the ass with just like mechanics on cooldown, then they just do like literally like look at Halandris, right? Like Halandris, that melee, like listen, okay, I'm a melee brother, okay, but the melee on that fight was out of fucking control, okay? Rogue and Enhance were doing too much on that fight. What's up?
And why is that bad?
It's not bad. It's just an observation.
Yeah, but that's what I feel, right? Like it seems to be like to me it would just be better if you had like a good balance in between, like within a single ratio over the course of the expansion, where it's just there's some fights that are really good for melee, some fights that are really good for range, and then there's some where like all of them have something to do. But typically I just don't. Here's the thing, yeah, I don't want to play melee another expansion where like 80% of the boss fights I'm basically just hitting a target dummy. That's just not very fun to me.
I think what's the fuck? Ragalon does a good job.
Yeah.
I mean, the other
like
problem
was a good fight with a lot of mechanics while still being like pretty simple. Where damage actually mattered to a certain extent. But yeah, it's obviously very difficult. Like encounter design is tough, and I hope that with the talent system that we have now, with a lot of different choices, that the encounter design kind of reflects that, where there's like more weird fights, I want to call them, where like a specific niche might be really good on one fight, and you being able to switch talents around to really fulfill that specific role just gives you a lot of viability on that fight. And over the course of the tier, maybe there's another one where you do another set of talents, etc. Like I would really love that the people who are really familiar with all the specs that the class has to offer and all the talents within each individual spec, that the people who are playing all of these really well are getting to shine, instead of just saying, okay, this is a really good AoE fight, so I'll play my Windwalker, and this is a really good single target fight, so I'll play my Outlaw Rogue or whatever. Because I would rather have like people within the class being really good and within specific niches than having to reroll to a class that just does like 50% more damage on AoE.
Yeah.
The thing about encounter design though is like, yes, you don't want to be hitting a target dummy for 5 minutes, but then you give melee mechanics and they have to be off the boss. And melee hates that. Like melee will just sit there and be like, "Why the fuck do I need to get off the boss, bro?"
Do they hate that? Then they're just hypocrites, right? But if I think back to something like Jaina, for example, Jaina was a really good fight, even though you didn't have 100% uptime on the boss, right? And then you compare it to the boss that came before with like Storm, like Blockade, where you were literally like there were ads in the back and they slowly moved towards the boss, but you didn't really give a shit. And then you had to drop some. You just stacked on each other, and then you just moved to the side like every 5 seconds or something. Like that boss was so boring. I don't want to just hit a target. I mean, I want to actually do mechanics and get maybe even rewarded for doing them well, right? Like we had shit like Will of the Emperor, where you, if you did the dance well, you could do something and you did extra damage. There's ways to incorporate melee mechanics or melee only mechanics that reward you for doing them well by giving you a damage buff or something, or giving you like some extra haste or whatever really fits the design of the encounter, right? I just don't let me hit target dummies again, because if the encounter design asks melee to just hit the dummy, then that kind of limits the design for each individual class and spec as well, because then that's the only thing we need to be good at.
Well, I mean, like,
isn't that
melee,
what it's been though?
there's like lots of melee specs that like do different things, right? Like you have, you know, 2 different, you know, magic physical debuffs. You have like shit like darkness. You have rally. You have you know, battle shout or whatever the fuck it's called. You know, you like I think like there's a lot of, you know, diversity in what melee brings. It's really like, you know, like paladin is just loaded with like bullshit like healing, bop, you know, bubble, you know, whatever. Wings is still like a broken as fuck cooldown, even though like paladin is like poo poo. I don't know. I think, you know, Wind Fury Totem. You know, I feel like melee. You know, like the only ones that like are turbo ass are like survival and feral, which are literally like live and die by being overtuned, right?
Yeah.
Because like we meme about rogue being like dog shit in raid, but like pretty much every single guild has like one rogue, right? Even though it's like most of the time. It's like Mythic Plus, dude. Everyone just brings one rogue, because fuck it, dude. Why not?
Because Outlaw Mythic Plus spec, dude. Insane value.
Yeah, it has Gouge.
It has Gouge.
It has Gouge.
Not anymore, though.
Yeah,
Gouge
that's
and
why
Flurry.
Outlaw is dead. That's why Outlaw is dead.
It's
longer
actually
has
funny
the Gouge
how the one rogue spec that is the least likely to pick up Gouge in the class right now is Outlaw.
Yep. Hey, that's
Yeah,
the way
but I
life
mean,
is sometimes.
the other specs don't fucking pick Gouge either.
Assassination can actually afford to, which I found interesting because between Gouge and potentially playing Dance maybe in M+ for the utility, for the silences and stuns and everything, like Assassination actually has a shit ton of utility. Right? You have a bunch of silences, damage reduction, you play a Trophic Poison, a buffed one. You have the Gouge on top. Like it's definitely looking
utility
better than
overload.
Outlaw and Subtlety at this point.
Yeah, so what you're
And then
saying is
Subtlety
nerf
just has a
assassination
better
M+.
cleave for some reason. I don't know. I don't understand the game anymore.
Assassination, too much M+ utility, so you have to nerf it.
Real.
Yeah, to be fair, picking up Iron Wire is actually not that easy in Assassination. It's kind of difficult to justify getting that point there.
But Selly, you can also play Dragon Tempered and have 2 non-lethal poisons.
Yeah,
utility overload.
That shit is actually going to be. I honestly believe that this is going to be even more impactful than just a raw damage comparison. But I love Carnage, but I don't think I'll ever play that talent in Dragonflight the way it is right now.
Selly, you can't gaslight me into thinking that taking fucking crippling poison is going to be.
Did.
It's gonna be dude. No, now I'm fucking mad because
I'm telling you,
I think you're not gonna play. Here's the thing, yeah. I still want to see Assassination being able to have both atrophic and numbing. I don't like the fact that like give us a choice node again where we can pick the other one so we can have both. I really feel that's just kind of needed, because yeah, like slows, like almost every class has a slow, right? So crippling is kind of whatever. It also just doesn't work on bosses, so we don't even get like a lethal dose bonus on bosses if you have like 2 utility poisons, because one of them just doesn't work. And so yeah, give me atrophic and numbing, because that is going to be fucking insane.
Rogue has fucking atrophic and numbing. You always bring 2 rogues, trust me.
Or you bring one assassination who does both jobs, and you can bring another warlock. Let's go!
Woo! Yeah.
Woo! Hate this timeline.
And then the outlaws will be sad that they don't have Restless Crew anymore.
All I know is our guild has done consistently pretty well, and we always bring double rogue, even though rogue always sucks. So just be a good player, and you get a raid spot easy.
Yeah, typically that's the case. Yeah, especially because I mean, what makes a good raider is not the class they play or how much damage that class does, but it's more about like soft skills and how good you are and how quickly you grasp mechanics and everything.
Yeah.
So if you come prepped and everything, and you're not actually brain dead, so if you don't play outlaw, then you pretty much always have a raid spot, I think.
Hey, listen, I offer coaching to my what's it called? My brothers.
Wait, are you actually going to advertise yourself now?
30-plus-year-old, my co-host. I'm talking my 30-plus-year-old co-host who struggle with outlaw. I do offer coaching. I will offer a discount just for you guys. Feel free to hit me up whenever you need, because you will need it. You will need it for Dragonflight, as it is the go-to spec is looking like.
Oh my god.
I'm gonna be so happy when outlaw not gets maybe like I'm not gonna be happy if outlaw gets nerfed, because I do think that's the wrong approach. But I'm gonna be happy if, after all of this like super hype moment and everything, Assassination gets buffed to the extent where Guy has to play Exsanguinate assassination in raid. Like,
And
his
knowing
raid
Guy,
is
he'll fucking like it. That's like.
Hey, listen, man. I have not sat at a raid tier yet. You know, there's a first time for everything.
I love how the one thing that unites all the rogues is that Xang sucks.
Yeah.
Oh no, I don't even care what
don't
it's saying.
like
I just don't want to play assassination.
Oh well.
Yeah,
We have a mutual goal.
there you go.
But yeah, I just hope that they find a way to make the niches of the individual specs a little bit more pronounced. I don't mind that subtlety is kind of a better cleave and dot spec right now than assassination. I mean, not better, but it feels better somehow. Casting 2 raptures for the price of 1 is kind of nice, and yeah, that they'll. More importantly, that we're not going back to like this BFA and Shadowlands design of, oh, this one thing is like really good, so we have to nerf it, and then we nerf the class in like as a consequence, and then we're not really like making up for it by bringing it back in line with like all the broken classes, right? We have like talents where we kind of feel or know that the goal is for them to be like give a certain percentage of like power boost, and then that's what we're playing around, and then other classes just kind of don't seem to follow that logic sometimes. You know, we're looking at like our set bonuses, and we knew they were supposed to be like 5 to 10%, and then we have a destruction warlock set bonus, and it's kind of like 50% or something. That felt
Man,
a
I'm
bit
telling you,
odd.
don't let it be you that falls for warlock propaganda. Okay, this is for co-hosts and viewers alike. Okay, don't let it be you.
Yeah, I'm gonna fall for outlaw propaganda instead.
Yeah,
Exactly. Listen to my propaganda.
Listen to the deranged screaming of one forever lad.
Yup. Yes, sir. Listen, man, I'm always optimistic about World of Warcraft, okay? So always listen to me. I've never let anybody astray. Never. Not once.
It couldn't be me.
Couldn't be me.
Have you guys seen the pre-patch stuff? Events, whatever.
Nope.
Elementals. Are you guys hype for whatever that
man.
is?
I get to gear my Demon Hunter.
Shut up, dude.
You get one more mention of Demon Hunter for the rest of the cast. So choose wisely.
Yeah, okay, I got you.
The momentum.
I don't know. I'm going to be honest. I don't even know what it is. It's either like from what I've read about it, it's either going to be exactly the same as like the invasions that we had like the last like 3 expansions, or it's going to be like the Seliathan event we had in Classic, where you just collect shit and then you summon shit, and then they drop something and you collect that stuff, and then you can summon something even bigger, and then
yeah, it's sick.
We
It's
already
so
had
sick.
that
Basic.
15 years ago, bro.
I mean, it's just like basic pre-patch shit, right? It's like a little event. You run around, you kill some monsters, you level some alts, you know, you get some gear, get some transmog, get some toys, you know, get some... It's just like...
Isn't
generic
the eye
shit,
level
right?
on that year like super low though?
Well, currently, you know, my rogue, quote unquote, has 108 eye level belt on. So, you know, anything can do.
Why?
What do you mean?
What do you mean? What do you mean?
What's confusing?
Why does it have a low eye level belt?
Well, because he's leveling.
Oh, that makes more sense now.
There you go.
What? Yeah, but like, I don't know. Pre-patch is always sick because like there's a fuck ton of people in one zone, and then you're just running around squatting on these like, you know, big mobs. It's
Oh
sick.
yeah, like the Shadowlands one was fun. You just flew around. You got like a super big backpack. You know, you fly around. You know, kill some monsters, get some transmog, get some. Yeah, I mean, it's just like. I mean, it doesn't need to be something crazy. Like all it needs to be is just like an excuse to log in. You know, get some mogs, get some toys, get some battle pets. You know, it's like I don't know.
Yeah, I'll be honest. That stuff was never for me. I usually did the event like once or twice, and then I just moved on. But
I was doing so much of the Shadowlands one.
really,
Sully doesn't like fun.
Yeah.
First of all, no, I don't. And second of all, it's just I'm a gamer when it comes to like competitive stuff. Then sure, sign me up. But like the pet battle, like collecting pets and mounts and stuff, no thanks.
A competitive collector.
Yeah, nah, that's just not my thing, right? Like as I said earlier, I don't really play alts either. So like getting like catch up gear or anything to prepare myself for leveling into Dragonflight, which I know that these events have always been super good for. I think that's awesome to even if you haven't played an alt for like 2 raid tiers, then you can just do the event a couple of times and get set up to not have to take like 30 seconds to kill a single mob
Yeah.
when you level in Dragonflight. So that's always nice, but since I basically only play one character and always have, now that really affected me. So yeah, it's
You gonna get
just
the Mog, bro?
not designed for me. Who cares about transmog, dude?
You need the drip.
I have the drip.
You do not have the drip.
I have the yes, I do.
Post your transmog right now.
I have the
Dude,
Elite
Seli-
PvP set from Legion, bro.
That is
Seli
not okay,
has
a full set.
the
A
drip.
full set is not drip.
I can confirm Selly has drip. It's
This
it's
guy-
it's an IV
this guy,
drip,
like-
dude.
This guy goes to the store, buys a paint by numbers, and is like, "Yo, check out my Mona Lisa I just painted." It's like, bro, you didn't paint that shit. You paint by numbers.
Don't I recall you posting your Demon Hunter in off topic like
My
2
Demon
days
Hunter
ago,
is
and it was
dripped
wearing
out
like
the
the
wazoo.
fairy, like the full
Dripped out
set.
He was in his PJs.
Important note, full set
Or she
of
was in her PJs.
fairy dragon thingy.
Yeah. But they say if they're sleeping on you, tuck them in. So I got my PJs.
Wait, do you actually like change your transmog before you go to sleep?
Yeah. If it's late at night, put on the PJs, bro.
Yeah, he changes his mod before he logs out.
Yeah, facts.
He RP walks into a house in Orgrimmar.
Yup. Yes, sir.
Oh god. All right. Do we have anything that we want to add?
I didn't actually
man,
retest any of the bosses. How did you like the bosses? Like
Too much
beyond them
cleave.
just being
Fuck.
all cleave.
Fuck. God damn.
Yeah, it's the raid expansion or the tier seems to be oops all cleave, which smile.
Yeah.
There was like one fight that like super stunk, but like other than that, the fight seemed pretty dope.
Do you expect it to be like super easy or kind of tough?
So I expect this raid tier based on the fact that Sepulcher fucked people up like real hard because people are bad at the game. I expect this raid tier to be like I expect like Emerald Nightmare. I expect this to be like an
Yeah,
Emerald Nightmare
kind
raid
of same
tier.
actually. Like maybe not as bad, with like at
Well, I don't
least
even
the
think Emerald
last
Nightmare was
boss being like
bad.
kind of hard.
I don't even think Emerald Nightmare was bad. It was just like it was a raid tier that like sure, if you were a stinky little boy who doesn't shower and like just raids all day, then like yeah, like it was easy. But like I was in the poo poo guild, man. Xavier Cenarius was a hard boy. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. It's just Savus was kind of a meme, right? Like that boss didn't
Xavius
really
was
do
super easy,
anything
right?
special.
Yeah. But I think like I think especially after like if you're trying to like reintroduce people, back into the game, because like that's what like I've noticed like a lot of the marketing is like kind of like targeted at that and like like oh we're bringing back talent trees like Paul. Like they probably don't want to make it super wacko difficulty like a like a Sepulcher or a what was that other one? What was like the super hard raid tier, the mini one?
Crucible.
Yeah, Crucible. Like they're not gonna like do that, right? Like
Yeah. God, I love that. That was the best raid in like the last 10 years of the game.
I never did it because I was in a poo poo guild, but that raid was dope.
I skipped that patch.
A lot of people did, yeah, and a lot of people missed out on probably one of the best bosses in the game. But
Yeah,
that's
but-
just
yeah.
how it goes sometimes.
But
I do agree. I think this raid here is going to be pretty short. Probably not as short as Emerald Nightmare in terms of just the first like 4 or 5 bosses being kind of a pushover, and scenarios being tough, and then Saviors being another pushover. But yeah, I do expect like the race for World First to be over after like within the first week, for example.
I expect it to be like 2 weeks or something.
But we haven't tested the last boss, so
That's fine.
I don't
True.
know how that's gonna end up.
It's gonna end up like honestly, here's the one thing I really liked about Sepulcher. They didn't test 3 of the bosses, and they reworked Halondras to a point where it was not even comparable to what people actually tested on the PTR.
Yeah.
And all those boss fights were great. They weren't tuned perfectly, which is fine because that always happens. But just like the overall boss design and how the mechanics worked and everything, was pretty damn amazing. For those bosses to not be tested, they were fucking great.
Yeah, they like work or like functional. Yeah, like people meme about like like wow, like having bugs and shit, but like none of the like the super end game bosses like were really buggy. Like the thing, like here's something that just like bothers me about like video games in general, especially when like focusing on the high end stuff, is that like people will like watch streamers and then they will like project like the values of the game onto the game that they don't play. Does that make sense?
No.
Okay, so like what I'm trying to say is that like people will be like, oh, like Emerald Nightmare. Like Emerald Nightmare is like a perfect example. Like people are like, oh, Emerald Nightmare was a terrible raid tier, got cleared in 1 day. But like, I'm sure as shit, like 99% of people saying that shit, he cleared it in not one day, right? Like,
Yeah.
where people like they live vicariously through people that are better than them, and then they like just like say things that just like aren't true for like their experience. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people, you know, they didn't really get to Anduin when Anduin was like hard, right? Or like Halandris was hard. But then they talk about like it being like this like terrible boss to Prague, even though they got to it when like Halandris like wasn't like an actual like boss anymore, right? Yeah. And, like I think like
no, that's definitely true.
So what you're saying is don't listen to the pins.
I just mean like
it's more like don't let your enjoyment of the game be decided or guided by the people who got there way before you.
Yeah, because like most of the bosses, like most people, both Sanctum and Sepulchre, like fine. I mean, like like depending on like how early you got to end, like a lot of the bosses, you know, got like nerfed a lot, you know, like tuned down a lot, and like you know most of like the tiny little shit bits on like Jailer and stuff kind of got like you know sanded down, where it's like a lot of people still say that fight was terrible, even though I fucking love that fight.
Nah, it's for sure. Like the way I see it is that if something is like super buggy and it's only super buggy for like the people who got there, then obviously it calls into question the integrity of the race for World First, for example. But it doesn't actually make the game any worse for like 99.999% of the players.
Yeah,
like, by the time they get to experience that content, it's like the bugs are fixed anyway, and it's
like
impossible
Anduin,
to release a piece of software without bugs in them.
Yeah, like Anduin on there was like fucking controversy about like Anduin, wasn't there? About like the stars were like way smaller than they were or something. Like the first like 2 kills or something, and like you know everybody else who experienced that boss didn't have that. It's just like I don't know.
Yeah,
I think like overall like the quality of the last 3 bosses like, in this expansion were like pretty good, or like this tier, excuse me.
Yeah, it's a shame. Like I really like Fatescribe, but sadly it was a little bit undertuned. I would say.
Oh, I fucking hate that boss.
That fight would have been so amazing if it was just a little bit harder, so you couldn't just cheese some of the mechanics.
Fuck that boss. I hate that bitch.
Yeah, because did you have to soak in the middle instead of being able to cleave on the ads all the time?
No, I just fucked it up twice on progression.
Get good.
Skill diff, honestly.
Yeah.
Real. Other specific topics to cover, or should we just move to Q&A? Because I got 35 minutes.
Yeah, let's just move to Q&A. And then for this Q&A, you guys can all use podcast questions as a channel where you can drop them in. And it doesn't like this time it doesn't have to be like rogue specific even. Like drop some shit in there. Like some absolute vile off-topic garbage.
Well, no, don't go that far.
Well, yeah, not obviously not, but like what's your favorite type of sandwich, guy? You put a lot of veggies on your sandwich?
So usually when I'm making a sandwich, right? So we go into the workshop, right? We get some toast, whole grain, right? We get some you know some fancy cheese that I got in the fridge. We shred it up, you know, sprinkle it on the thing. We throw it in the toaster. While the toaster oven's going, we grab some lunch meat, or we grab some leftovers, you know, whether it be steak, some chicken, right? So as it's toasting, we get the mayo, we get the lettuce, we get the cheese, we get the pepper, we get the salt. And then we start going, okay? We lather the bread in mayo, put a little bit of sriracha, make a little bit of spicy mayo, and then just start going to town. Lettuce, boom. Lunch meat, boom. Spinach, boom. And then, you know, it's beautiful.
I did not expect you to be able to fill like 2 minutes talking about this.
Hey, listen, man,
It's kind of impressive,
I have a knack for talking about nothing, okay?
He's got ideas, okay?
Yeah, the man has ideas. That's true.
He's cooking. He's cooking.
What is he cooking?
All right, what do we got in that time? How tall is
the enemy
guy?
versus Iris?
How tall am I? 5'10".
Oof.
What is that in normal units?
Short.
Dog.
Short.
Hold on, let me check.
Haha, short.
178 centimeters.
Okay. So actually taller than me still.
What the? Why am I? Why are you guys midgets?
Hello? Nah, I'm like 172, I think. Wait, I assumed that you were like about as tall as I am, Whispyr.
Dude, I'm like 185.
Really?
Yeah.
Fucking a mutant.
What? No. What are you talking about?
You don't sound that tall.
What does that even mean?
Chat. Does
you
Whispyr
sound-
sound like someone who is 185?
Absolutely fucking not.
How
He
does
sounds
one
like 5'6" and he lies.
How does one sound 185?
The same way that I sound like I'm 6'2" is how you sound 5'6".
What?
Because literally everybody I talk to on like voice chat, and then like I came up and they're like, "Why do you look like that?" I'm like, "I don't know, dog."
His face, bro. Oh god.
Listen,
Now
I
I
don't
have to-
sound like I don't sound 5'10" and underweight. Okay.
Dude. I actually got a little bit of a beer belly going. I got that COVID weight.
Nah, it's
Yeah,
not a
COVID
beer
weight,
belly,
Cope.
right? It's a dad belly. You're getting old now.
True. Thoughts on RBGs? Oh boy.
The color?
No, the gameplay, you mongoloid.
I think
RGBs.
it's fine. It's I don't wanna have it be like in Nafria where it's just so important
Wait,
to
I
the
don't know what you're talking
RPGs
about.
for gearing process.
They're
At
battlegrounds, bro.
Oh,
fucking-
I thought you were talking about like
Jesus.
red,
Yeah,
blue, green,
we
like
can't
fucking
use-
colored computers.
we can't use acronyms because we have an Outlaw player in chat, so he actually has some trouble understanding like
Real.
intelligent speech. But I mean, I used to be a PvPer, right? I'm not anymore because I don't enjoy the way the PvP has been for basically the last 10, 15 years. But I think RPGs kind of saw a resurgence in Nafria, right? Like I know a lot of people who played a lot of Mythic Plus suddenly playing RPGs instead, and I think that was kind of nice. I just like it to not be as like ranged heavy, which it usually is, and that it's not required for gear, right? It should be something that you do because you enjoy it, and not because you feel compelled to do it for character progression.
Yeah, I think Castle Nathria was fucking poop because you just had to get the weapon because
Yeah.
especially for Rogue, because you got sat on fucking what's that stupid fight? Council, and that was the only other that was the only weapon boss.
Yeah, and I don't like PvP, so that's my opinion on it. Will
But you're
not
185.
PvP.
How can you not like PvP?
No, don't bring my height into this. Follow any shows now. Who would you recommend? What?
Chainsaw Man, woo, anime. Woo, I love anime.
Hot weeb.
Yeah, we don't talk about anime.
Yeah, anybody who watches anime, go watch Chainsaw Man. It's really good.
All right, but
What's
Game
the-
of
what's the-
Thrones
what's
is
the
getting
premise?
awfully close to weeb behavior.
What the fuck are you talking about?
I'm gonna say it.
What are you saying?
Game of Thrones is an anime for the broader audience.
What are you talking about?
They just don't market it that way. Think about it. Wake up.
Does anybody know what he's saying right now?
Wake up.
I kind of
Wake up.
understand. Yeah, it's like the
Open your
it's
third
like
eye.
like the mass appeal TV series.
How does that make it anime?
It's
How does it not?
okay.
You can't.
It's not
What?
animated, right? So I get it, right? But think about
I'm thinking
how
you're not making sense.
think about how Game of Thrones looks. Yeah?
Uh-huh.
It's literally unanimated anime.
What are you talking? You can't just repeat yourself and expect me to understand. You're speaking fucking like Hebrew or some shit, man.
It's 3D anime, bro.
What are you saying? You can't just keep repeating yourself.
I mean, it's like some people get it and some people don't, and we all
You-
know who they are.
Yeah.
You're out of control.
You'll get it. I'll tell you when you're older.
Yeah, when you get
Uh-huh.
older, you'll understand. No,
Alright.
I don't even know what's the last thing I watched actually.
House of Dragon's pretty. Haven't seen it. Better Call
Nah,
Saul's
I'm
pretty good.
waiting. I'm waiting for. I like all the episodes out right now because I don't
Yeah.
like watching like one episode every week. I think that's disgusting.
Yeah, it's
So I
all out,
typically
right?
just watch it like a few years after they come out, and then you can watch like binge like 1 or 2 or 3 seasons. It's just way better.
Yeah, that's fair. But it's like it's all out now, so if you want to watch it, and then get disappointed when they go away from the source material.
I mean, there's no source material for it, right? It's mostly just new shit.
Is it?
I mean, some of it, from what I've seen, like there's some references to the original books, right? But a bunch of the developments are just not detailed in the books themselves. You usually know like the outcome of certain things, but like what actually happened is not like detailed.
Mm-hmm.
You guys hear about the Witcher recasting?
Yeah.
That shit's fucked, man.
No positivity there.
Nope, it's gonna be bad.
Nah, mostly because of like it seems to be because there were like some creative differences there with the writers kind of wanting to move away further from the source material. And I mean, you can do that, but then you just need to make it something new, right? Because then we tread into Rings of Power territory, where things like you know the names and everything because you've read the original books or like the original source material, and then everything you see on screen just doesn't line up with your expectation of it, or just straight up just doesn't make sense because it shouldn't be that way. But you can't remove yourself from it being based on that thing that you know and that you love. And I think that's kind of the problem that they'll have with The Witcher as well. Is so many people either have played the games or have read the books or both. It's going to be difficult, and recasting the protagonist, I think, has never really worked out super well.
Do you have any other rogue questions?
Do we have any rogue questions? How strong do you think the rogue raid buff is on Outlaw and Sin?
So
I mean, Outlaw doesn't have one, right?
Yeah, it does. It has a
I mean, you're all the same now. I mean,
it's all a trophy.
Well, it's not like either specific, right? It's just like a rogue utility. Yeah. I think like the thing is like so like people said weakness was nutty, right? Like we all agree with that.
Like find weakness?
No, weakness, like the curse of weakness.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, so if curse of weakness is nutty, and like all I hear my raid leaders talk about is, oh, make sure, this warlock this week is applying weakness, during like prog and shit, right? Where it's like numbing poison is just curse of weakness, except it's fully passive. So like I know on Denathrius, numbing poison was nutty insano, and atrophic is just like a permanent like what's the stupid shit called? The aura that paladin has.
Devotional aura.
Yeah, like I think like both of them are like super good, and as soon as like a streamer starts talking about it, then everybody's not going to shut the fuck up about it until it's like nerfed. Because like I could easily see bringing double rogue to every single raid encounter, where one's bringing atrophic and one's bringing numbing.
Yeah, I think the like Curse of Weakness was always really good because it stacked with numbing or Sinful Brand, right? So you had like double attack speed slow, which was really big for tanks. I'm not sure that will still be around. But even then, like 15% slower attack is kind of big and costing as well.
Yeah, so, the numbing is more specific. Like some encounters, it matters. Like Denathrius, it really matters.
Yeah,
some it like won't
that's why
matter.
It's good as a choice node, right? Like there might be some encounters where you can literally like reduce the amount of swings between mechanics for a tank from like 5 to 4, for example, and then you're literally just cutting the damage tank takes by 20%. And that's big. And then there might be other fights where it just kind of doesn't matter. So you just slap in Atrophic. I think Atrophic will kind of be the default choice. And then you might switch over to numbing if you really need it for something.
Yeah.
Or as you said, maybe we do get a few tuning changes still, and then you will actually want to bring 2 rogues.
Yeah, I think like it's just like a generic like our guild always brings 2 rogues to like prog basically. Like we're almost always bringing double rogue unless it's like a Giga Dick melee fight, and then we just don't bring any rogues. But like one going atrophic and then one going numbing is going to be like pretty default for us at least.
Yeah. How many people do you think will not play cheat?
On farm, I would hope 0, but like on prog, hopefully 0. But on farm, I'm not going to be playing cheat.
How many people you think will going to cope that you can get like 5% reduced energy cost on finishers instead, and that's a DPS gain, and cheat dev is not?
I mean, people are, what I've learned from 6 years of theory crafting is that people are stupid, and I can lead a horse to water, but I can't make him drink.
I know that for assassination, it's very difficult to not take cheat death.
Yeah.
For outlaw, you can just like not go it.
Yeah, I mean, for the other specs, the Shadow Dance column, I guess, is kind of okay, but assassination gets actually nothing. So, a little unlucky.
Yeah, like you get like there's a lot of like stupid shit that you can do on like the outlaw tree as well, where like people are, you know, in my opinion, very stupidly, you know, pathing through shit to not get a grapple, and then they can go down hit and run daft maneuvers, and they get improved BT, and they get like I don't know what it is, like 3% damage or some shit. But like I don't know, that seems dumb as bricks. But you know, people are probably gonna still do it.
Yeah, I think typically, like to get back to the original question, I think the damage mitigation or damage reduction buffs are not nearly as present in people's minds as the DPS buffs are. Everybody will immediately remember, oh yeah, we don't have a DH buff, or oh yeah, we don't have a Windwalker buff, because they actually improve people's DPS. No one really cares whether if you don't have a Paladin in the group, meaning you don't have you don't have the Devil Aura, right? Like it even goes so far where we just realize sometimes in raid, oh yeah, we don't have a stamina buff because we don't have a priest, right? People don't really think about the defensive buffs nearly as much, and because it's not a buff either, it's just a debuff. I think Atrophic Poison, I don't think people will care much about it, unless there's like a mechanic or boss where you really need that extra 4% somehow, and it happens to also be on an ability that's actually affected by it. Then sure, it's going to be nice, but I don't think it's going to be mandatory as a raid buff compared to something like stamina buff, like AP buff, like Demon Hunter Monk. It's just not as potent.
Oh yeah, I mean it's not required, but I know that we always play double rogue, no, like even when you know rogue is poo poo, like in Castle Nathria, and then you know now that there's like an actual like justifiable reason, and then you know it's good. Like
I
nobody
can
cared about
see
numbing
some of the
poison
top end
on.
guilds doing it, right? Like I can definitely see some of the top end skilled who like super min max, how much their healers can push their HPS. And then maybe you have a situation like Rygalon again, where one of the guilds realizes, okay, we have enough damage mitigation here to be able to just drop a healer, and then the gain isn't really from the raid taking less damage, it's just the gain, another DPS gain, right? You just bring in extra DPS because your healers are fine dealing with the damage intake. And I mean, Rogue can be the difference for that.
Yep.
But in a regular, like, non-race for World for skill, I don't think that's the case, because healers typically aren't playing, like, at the absolute best they can.
Alright, I want to rapid fire a couple more, and then just
Sure.
close it up. So, how optimistic are you for Dragonflight as a whole? And I want to answer in a 1 to 10. 10 being giga optimistic, and 1 being like I'm looking at other games to play.
Looks fun. 8.
That's not a, yeah, I was gonna say that's not a number. Yeah, I was gonna say 7 or 8 as well. It changes from week to week, I'll be honest. I think when pre-patch came out, it was a 5. Now it's back up to a 7 again.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll depend a bit. I think it was DK at some point who said it, that at the end of the day, or Push, I think, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how bad the game is, as long as the raids are fun. If the raids are fun, people will play the game, and I think that's totally true. If Rogue is shit, no one cares. If the raids are good, then you'll just play something else, and you'll still enjoy your time in the game.
I'm also around an 8, but that can quickly go down to like a 5. Like if assassination just giga sucks everywhere, I'm gonna be sad. If professions turn out to be dog shit and just like endless grinds, I'm gonna be real sad.
I'm looking forward to the profession rework, because I mean we kind of had one in Shadowlands, right? But they never really did anything with it, with like the additional crafting materials, and then it kind of was whatever. But yeah, that's gonna be nice for sure if they really go into it. I think I'm more excited about the fact that I think it was in the Preach interview or something, where the devs were talking about it, that they're basically looking at Dragonflight as like the 3rd stage of WoW, and I like that idea that they're just saying, okay, after Shadowlands, we're just going to make a cut and we're going to try something different. Because to me, personally, what they did in the last 3 expansions just didn't work out. And so I'm glad that they're just reevaluating their priorities and looking at other things or just doing things differently, because the stuff that they tried multiple times around just didn't work.
Yeah.
All I know is talents are Pog, Dragon Flying is Pog, professions are Pog. The only thing that's not Pog is like, I don't know what I'm doing outside of raid. I guess it's just like profession shit, which is like, I guess that's what I'm doing outside of raid and like Mythic Plus and shit. So I don't know. It seems like
Pretty much.
WoW, and WoW's fun. So Pog.
All right, which spec gets you lots of e-girls? And I don't want an explanation. I just want the spec and nothing attached to it.
Windwalker.
Sally?
Any tank spec.
I'm gonna go hot take, Resto Shaman. All right.
What spec is going to get you the E-boys, though? That's a question. That's a more important one as well.
Ooh, the E-boys.
Disc Priest.
True.
I'm gonna have to go with Shadow.
Why?
I don't know. That's for you to decide.
Wait, what?
I have my reasons.
Okay.
Next question.
Yeah.
Thoughts on damage profiles and balancing? Should classes and specs who aren't great in cleave get some compensation in single target?
No.
No. I'm going to have a very unpopular opinion on this. All the classes should be solid on single target and somewhat even, and then bring back target caps and actually make them work. So some classes are really good on big scale AoE, some classes are really good at 2 or 3 target cleave, and some classes are really good at like 5, 6, 7, 8 targets. And then you can have the encounter design actually highlight each individual niche, and all of them have value depending on the boss fight and depending on the dungeon. They tried that, and then they just gave up on it because everybody was whining about it because they didn't understand target caps.
I mean, also, range just didn't have any.
I think like all the specs should excel at something, right? Like Windwalker usually does poo-poo single target, but then to compensate, it does literally double the damage of every other spec in AoE. And, like Balance Druid, I don't know, sometimes they suck in single target, and then sometimes they're broken on encounters like, Council or Kel'Thuzad or, Anduin or just, every fight in the game. I think it's fine for certain specs to like excel at certain things, right?
But do you think that should just be the baseline? Like, if you suck in AoE, do you think your single target should be better?
Probably.
Okay. And then let's close out. What is one ability that you see as bad? Wait, what is one ability talent that you see as bad that you would like to get either buffed or reworked because you really want to use it? I mean, yeah, the obvious choice is rework Exsanguinate. As the chat is flooding.
So for like the problem is that like Outlaw is so perfect, it's really hard to make such a statement. But like probably like I don't know, probably Hidden Opportunity. I think it just like sucks without like a tier set propping it up. But like I don't know, other than that, like my problem is that Outlaw is so perfectly designed that this happens every expansion where it's just like, oh, how would you like fix things? I'm like, I don't know, dude. How do you fix perfection?
Yeah, must be real tough for you.
Yeah,
I'm sorry you have to wake up every day and go through that.
Yeah,
it's just waking up and being perfect, man. It's a hard life. Outlaw Mastery, incorrect. Outlaw Mastery is good now. They fixed the bugs with it, and it's literally better than Haste. Haste stinks.
I mean, it always did.
Fix Fan the Hammer? They also fixed Fan the Hammer, dude.
Because all the other stuff was kind of whatever. Crit you didn't want because you have BTE crit anyway, and RP, and then so it's like none of the other stats really did anything, so you kind of defaulted back to Haste. Nah, I definitely go Shadowblades. I think that ability needed a rework 10 years ago, and it still needs one now. I think most of the sub cooldowns kind of need to take another look at them. I think it's actually what's holding back the spec the most. It's just its cooldowns are poo-poo. Shadow Dance as a whole is really nice, especially now that you have the way like the chance to either play like high damage enhancing Shadow Dances or just higher uptime. I think that's always the way the spec should have played, but one was always vastly superior to the other. But overall, I just feel like Shadow Blades is a poo-poo cooldown and always was.